Alright, Adeshimama ope a news a war four corners of Ghana, dear Yam, dear Nyono, dear Meso say a Ayehu TV, and Sempafi anyhow. Unitia and Sema El Coso Ewo, ye my Ghana. And no one sem ena yatna se na Yakob Waye Mushifimu, na Yedibi Ebedum etie for na Monso Macha Madri. Isan say, oh my Ghana, ye na a yedia. Yemorem, na yenkotie nsema elkoso ni bi emba. Yeba, nsembo fra kenche yebeto aso ede amam.
Welcome, it's an absolute delight to have you back. 10 illegal miners have died following a mine cave-in in Ataniata in the Esutifi South District of the Tèarflow region. At least 30 others are in critical condition after the pit reportedly collapsed while they were working underground. An undisclosed number of miners are still feared trapped beneath the rubble as rescue efforts continue. The injured are currently on admission at the St. Elizabeth Catholic Hospital in Shidi. You would recall that the community has previously been in the spotlight following a confrontation involving the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat NIMOS in 2025. Well, environmental journalist Erastus Asaridonko joins us via Zoom with some details. Erastus, is the rescue effort still underway?
So, let me tell you what we know at the moment. No, the rescue efforts have ended. Yesterday, they had the inclination that quite a number of people were trapped in the pit. So they brought in heavy equipment, precisely excavators, to dig and search for survivors. But after hours, they could not find any more survivors, so they have discontinued any form of rescue efforts. Currently, as we speak, the official figure, as I'm getting, as at the number of bodies that have been deposited at the mortuary, is 9. 9 bodies have been deposited at the mortuary as we speak. 4 people were sent to the St. Elizabeth Hospital at Fidim. From the 4, we do understand that 1 is sustained minor injuries, 3 are in serious condition and are currently responding to treatment. But as we speak, the whole place have been abandoned for now, and rescue efforts have ended.
Okay, so given the previous confrontations involving NIMOS in 2025, what does this particular incident reveal about the effectiveness of anti-illegal mining operations in the area?
It tells you there is poor supervision both at the District Security Council level and from NIMO's supervisory role, or let me say rapid response to that particular area. If you remember, what NIMO sought to do back then was to stop a cyanide leaching joint. There are many cyanide leaching joints within the Esutifi South, Esutifi North areas, and precisely the towns affected include in Tèarflow, Kenyase number 1 and 2, Ataniata, and others. And many of them are sitting on tributaries which join the Tama River. And that is what NIMOS sought to stop at Brunikrum, where the people attacked them at the Fidim police station, and that was it. Since then, we have not heard anything from that. And I think that is what is breeding the impunity we are seeing now, where people have sought to take over somebody's farm and have turned it into a mining pit, which has eventually collapsed and killed 9 people.
Okay, so Erastus, if I understand you clearly, these cyanide leaking joints, these are mining residues that people also try and extract gold from. Is that correct?
That is correct, indeed. They believe that there is 70% recoverable gold in the tailings, which is the mining residue which the Shamfan operators, illegal miners, artisanal miners are throwing away. Now they are buying that in large quantities, and they are buying cyanide in drums. And with the assistance of Burkina Bay citizens, they are now doing what they call leaching of the mining residue to gain the gold, to dissolve the mining residue, and then eventually get the gold from that. Now the residue goes into many sources, open environments, water sources, and all that, and that is a very dangerous contamination point for the entire community where these cyanide leaching joints or sankofa is happening.
So the situation is rife in Esutifi South and Esutifi North, and this is also
precisely.
Okay, so it's the same area. This is Esutifi South or North where NIMOS was also attacked. So does that mean that NIMOS isn't doing enough over there to stop these illegal miners, deter them from going there? Because clearly they don't seem to want to stop. It's a good business for them, is it not?
Well, if you know the operations of NIMOS, clearly you see that NIMOS serves as a rapid response team rather than a local response unit, where the police at the local level, the district security council is supposed to serve that role. They are supposed to police and enforce environmental laws. NIMOS always comes in at the tail end on the wedge where it is a sort of an emergency. And so what NIMOS sought to do back then was to go in there, stop that activity which they saw on their way to embark on an operation. But the community had a different response to it. There were influential people who, until date, have been able to sort of calm NIMOS from the situation, and these cyanide leaching joints continue to work in that area. The Ataniata situation, the mining which has taken place, is somebody's farm, which they started, I learned, about a week ago. When they saw that there was gold on that farm, they approached the landowner. Initially, he decided not to sell. I understand from sources in there that they threatened him, and so he had to give in and give the land over to them and accept the pittance for them to mine. If you look at the pictures that are showing currently on your screen, you could see that this is not an organized form of mining. It's an illegal mining activity that went on, a free-for-all kind of digging. Everybody is digging and trying to get their hands on something, and so they were not properly shielding the loose earth from coming over to them, and that is how the loose earth finally came over them and suffocated many of them.
Okay, so after the death of these 9 illegal miners, how's the community reacting to this? The Ataniata community specifically?
It will surprise you to know what I'm learning from the ground. In fact, after speaking with some of the miners themselves who don't want to come on camera, they are saying that, well, it's likely that they will go back because they found quite a sizable amount of gold in that earth. In his own words, he says, the loose earth, meaning to it, all the earth that you see over there contains gold. And so they are likely to go back in some few days to continue digging in that very enclave, unless authorities cordon off the place to prevent any further tragedy.
Okay, speaking of authorities securing the place, are there efforts to close the pits? Because you are telling us now that it's actually a farm, someone's farm. He or she was coerced to give out their farmlands to these illegal miners. And so are there any efforts to cover the pits?
None that I know of. Currently, the people have left the area, but I'm learning that that is temporarily. The place has not been cordoned off. The police were there yesterday. There were no attempts to cordon the place off. It's likely that the artisanal miners are going to come back in the coming days.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Erastus Osari Donko. That's environmental journalist. Now, we also have Pakwesi Shandoff. He's Media Relations Officer, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and he also joins us via Zoom. Shandoff, has surveillance weakened in the Esutifi South area, and why?
Absolutely not. Surveillance in that part of the country has not in any way weakened at all. You would recall that not too long ago, NIMOS was deployed to that particular enclave on an operation. Of course, there was a confrontation, and so the approach back then was to withdraw and regroup. As I speak to you, there is a comprehensive plan to invade that particular jurisdiction again. This time around, the plan and purpose of NIMOS for that particular area is a permanent full-scale deployment, which actually ties into already designed program of full-scale 9 months deployment, because what we have observed over the period is that anytime NIMOS goes into an area to execute an operation, after they have left, the illegal miners obstinately would return. And under normal circumstances, one may expect that, well, the local enforcement units are supposed to be the vanguards, but it appears that is not happening. Not to cast any blame, but we are not seeing that kind of local protection, or if like local enforcement. And so what NIMOS is going to do, effective the end of the first quarter, is a full-scale 24/7 uninterrupted deployment to that particular enclave, and indeed to all other flashpoints. We believe that when that is done, incidents of this nature will become a thing of the past.
Okay, so you're saying that they are going to deploy permanent. We're gathering from Erastus that NIMOS is usually a rapid response measure. So if they are going to pitch camp over there, you think this will be enough to deter the illegal miners? Because Erastus is telling us that the community says, look, I mean, we are going back. There's a lot of money in that venture. Would that be deterrent enough? 24-hour deployment.
Absolutely. For the locals, they have always believed, and indeed it's one of the major hurdles when it comes to the fight against illegal mining. Those who are the participants do not even see that their endeavor is environmentally wrong. They see it as a viable economic venture. And so if you are if continuously are dealing with people who think this enterprise is not a problem, you would have to by all means scale up. And in scaling up, what we are doing is the 24/7 uninterrupted surveillance. Once the NIMOS personnel are stationed permanently there, I do not think, unless of course they want an open warfare, which of course NIMOS is able to accommodate anyway, but I do not think that the miners, sorry to say, perhaps in their right senses, would see a full-scale deployment and still be moving into the pits. That would not happen. And that is why we believe it's an effective treatment to the crisis in that enclave, and indeed all other flashpoints across the country where Galamsey is very prominent and prevalent.
Okay, but it happened in 2025. If it happens again, how prepared is NIMOS against community members, residents, a number of them?
As I speak, over 500 NIMOS task force have been adequately trained and equipped for the full-scale nationwide deployment. Indeed, the numbers have been increased because it has become apparent that some of the illegal miners in certain parts of the country have become very aggressive and combative. And so for the fact that the situation that we have on our hand is increasingly becoming threatening, you just have to increase your numbers and then enhance your logistics. So that is what we have done. About 500 have been trained. I cannot disclose how many of those would be deployed to that area, but rest assured the number that will come into that particular jurisdiction will be more than enough to contain any form of confrontation or excesses, so that we won't have what we had earlier. But I also have to place on record that in that particular incident in Chidiem, somewhere in November, I think it was on the 1st, 2nd or 3rd of November, one of them, 2025, the Sector Minister, Honorable Makofi Boa, had an engagement with the Speaker of Parliament for an investigation to be instituted into that particular attack. The findings have been concluded. I'm sure that very soon we'll put them out accordingly, because we had promised that that incident, where even of course some influential persons in that enclave were mentioned, is one that is serious. So we have wrapped up the investigations, and I'm sure the findings will be out very soon.
Okay, so on our documentary where the Amansey Central DC was cited in the documentary Attacks for Galamsey, where Galamseyers were made to pay some amount of money, you said there was going to be an investigation into that. How far?
Yes, how far? We've come very far with the investigation and the probing and the inquiry into that particular expose. Of course, let me see this opportunity.
Okay, and what are the findings?
Yes, so I'm saying we have come very far. The matter is yet to be thoroughly concluded, but it is far advanced now. I think we've been able to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, because we took the response of the assembly as well. The argument they advanced predominantly was the fact that these charges and these levies have long existed and that it wasn't a new development. But in the expose that was shown to the whole country, I mean, the investigators posed as illegal miners, not legal miners. They posed as illegal miners. And so the elephant in the room and the question to be addressed is that even if it is an aged-old levy that you have been charging, these people who came to you posed as illegal miners, why then did you interact with them? Closure will be put on that by the close of the week, and I'm sure when we are done, we'll put out the fine details on the relevant sanctions, if any, and the reforms that have to be instituted to kill the matter, of course, across all the other assemblies and districts, because apparently these charges are, actually spread to other jurisdictions as well. So by close of week, we should have closure on this matter. Okay,
all right. So we'll be expecting that and engaging you, especially on what happens to the Amansi Central DC cited in that documentary. Thank you so much, Pakwesi Shandov. He's Media Relations Officer for the Lands Ministry.